know.
Why did you bring up Jimmy Kimmel when that whole thing was going on?
Including Jimmy Kimmel, are really hoping that doesn't.
You know, forever they talked about releasing the Epstein list
Right.
or whatever. And I had said that on the show, and he had got on his show and called me.
Aaron Rodgers is too arrogant to know how ignorant he is.
What was he saying you're a doofus for thinking?
There was a conversation that Pat was having about this list coming out, and I was referring to the list there being a list and it coming out.
So when you were saying that he doesn't want that list to come out, you weren't saying that he was on that
No,
list.
nobody watched the fucking clip. That's why.
Right.
They just saw a headline.
They saw a very
it's the
small
anti-vax
thing.
guy again. Let's fucking
Right.
hammer.
A lot of
here's
people
a
I know are
scary
thinking
thing.
about where they can get citizenship and
I do
stuff.
have Italian. I did get Italian citizenship.
You do?
I do.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
I do have that. And what's going on is as bad as you thought it was gonna be.
Way worse.
It's so much worse. It's just unbelievable. Like, I feel like it's probably even worse than he would like it to be.
Probably, yeah.
Jimmy Kimmel just shocked his audience by revealing he's ready to pack up, leave the United States, and start a new life in Italy. But the real twist? His plan somehow dragged Joe Rogan into the conversation, sparking a wave of reactions, memes, and plenty of side-eye. And the way Rogan's name came up has people debating whether it was a subtle jab or a full-on roast in disguise. Jimmy Kimmel isn't just talking about moving. He's already laid the groundwork. On a recent appearance on the Sarah Silverman podcast, Kimmel revealed that he quietly secured Italian citizenship, giving him a ready-made exit strategy. This wasn't some offhand joke or late-night punchline. He sounded serious, even a little fed up. According to Kimmel, the political climate in the U.S. has gone from tense to unbearable, especially after Trump's return to the White House. He claims it's so much worse than anyone imagined, and for him, that's enough reason to consider a permanent relocation. And it's not just about politics. Kimmel painted a picture of life in Italy that sounds like the complete opposite of America's current chaos. Slower pace, better food, richer culture, and, as he put it, people who aren't at each other's throats 24/7. Whether he's romanticizing it or not, the message was clear. He's looking for a reset. The move isn't locked in yet, but the fact that he's publicly admitting it and has the legal means to do it signals just how disillusioned he's become with the country he's spent his whole career entertaining. But as straightforward as this might sound, the story takes a strange turn when Joe Rogan's name gets brought into the mix. And that's where things get interesting.
First, I want to start with Jimmy Kimmel, who went on the podcast of comedian Sarah Silverman and said a bunch of crazy shit. Okay, including, I'll just give you this one for flavor. He's yet another leftist who's thinking about fleeing America. So afraid is he of Trump. SOT 23 here.
A lot of
Here's
people
the
I know are
scary
thinking
thing.
about where they can get citizenship and
I do
stuff.
have Italian. I did get Italian citizenship.
You do?
I do.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
I do have that. And what's going on is as bad as you thought it was gonna be.
Way worse.
It's so much worse. It's just unbelievable. Like, I feel like it's probably even worse than he would like it to be.
Oh, sure, because we looked to Jimmy Kimmel to figure out insights into how Donald Trump is thinking. The absurdity of this. I would say go, but I love Italy too much to say that. They don't deserve this. I'm sorry, but he should go to Ireland. They do deserve this. They're as woke as they come. My people, who are like among the toughest people on earth, or were, have gone completely woke. But, you know, I'm Irish and Italian, so I have empathy. And he should not go to Italy. It's too beautiful a country to host Jimmy Kimmel. And why would they have given him citizenship to begin with? But in any event, he should go. He should definitely leave. But he won't. He's just saying that to get plaudits from fellow leftist Sarah Silverman and from people who listen to that show. He will never leave his very lucrative but loser of a show on ABC's late night. He's not going to abandon that because feeling important and like he matters is too important to Jimmy Kimmel. But he's got to get stroked by leftists by saying he's gotten Italian citizenship, and he may indeed exercise it by leaving a United States that even Donald Trump must feel has gone too far. Okay, not our guy for insights on Trump's thinking.
When Kimmel said the political climate is bad, he didn't mean mildly inconvenient. No, he meant worse than you thought. And coming from a guy who's made a living satirizing American politics, that's saying something. On the podcast, he admitted he expected tension after the election, but what's unfolded feels In his words, like a boiling point nobody's willing to admit we've reached. He pointed to the growing division in the country, the non-stop outrage cycles, and the way every conversation seems to spiral into a fight, no matter the topic. For Kimmel, it's not just about disagreeing with the people in charge. It's about the constant noise, the feeling that even comedy isn't a safe space anymore. The room's too loud to tell a joke, he implied, describing how political discourse has bled into every corner of daily life. And with that frustration, Italy isn't just looking like a vacation spot. It's looking like a lifeboat. But then, almost out of nowhere, Kimmel brings up Joe Rogan. And what he says next makes you wonder if this was a compliment or a very subtle dig. Somewhere in the middle of explaining why Italy was starting to look like the promised land, Kimmel dropped a name that caught everyone off guard: Joe Rogan. Not in the context of UFC fights, podcast numbers, or comedy beefs, but in a conversation about politics. Kimmel recalled Rogan questioning Trump's deportation policies, saying something along the lines of, "Why is he doing this? He shouldn't be deporting people." The implication? Even Rogan, someone who's been painted at times as more right-leaning, is openly questioning certain moves. Now, to be fair, Kimmel didn't outright attack Rogan. In fact, he framed it almost as a positive, saying, it's good when people can change their views. But the delivery, that's where people started raising eyebrows. It had that late-night host cadence, half praise, half smirk, that leaves you wondering if it was an acknowledgement or a sly jab.
Because the guy was so polarizing.
Boy, wouldn't it be fun to put Donald Trump in that hot seat, see how much that genius really knows?
Right?
And because he was such an easy guy to turn into a Nazi.
What would you say to him if you could get this thing?
I would say, please, have a seat. You know what? Any time you spend on a game show is another hour you're not being president.
Like, you pointed to him, you're like, look at the way he talks. He's going to ruin the world.
Can't tackle Donald Trump. He is the most important, the smartest, the most capable leader in the world, and he's not going to let someone push him around.
It's a threat to democracy. We could do anything we can to stop him. So what do? They stop all the primaries.
Trump, as has now been well established, is the greatest negotiator, the greatest deal maker, the greatest diplomat, and the greatest peacemaker that we have ever seen in this country.
They don't have real primaries anymore. They haven't had a real primary since 2012.
I do believe that it will be Donald Trump and Elon Musk who were reflected as two of the saviors of this country and really of the entire world.
They rig them.
After all, Kimmel's built a career on slipping subtle roasts into seemingly casual conversations. The internet didn't waste time picking sides. Some claimed Kimmel was simply pointing out an example of ideological flexibility. Others swore he was poking fun at Rogan for taking so long to get there. Either way, Rogan's name had now been pulled into a political exit plan story, and that's the kind of mix that gets people talking and arguing. And this wouldn't be the last time the conversation took an ironic turn, because what Kimmel said next made the whole thing even messier. One of the most fascinating parts of this whole exchange is the irony buried in it. Here's Jimmy Kimmel, a man who's been publicly critical of Joe Rogan in the past, now using Rogan as an example of someone who can rethink their stance. And here's Rogan, a guy often framed as anti-establishment, finding himself partially aligned with someone from the Hollywood late-night circuit, even if only for a moment. It's a reminder that political lines aren't as clean-cut as social media likes to pretend. People's views shift, alliances form in strange places, and sometimes the very person you've criticized becomes the example you hold up to make a point. The irony is almost comedic. Two men from very different corners of entertainment ending up in the same sentence, tied together by a shared skepticism about certain political moves. But irony is a double-edged sword. For Rogan's fans, being brought into Kimmel's "I'm leaving the country" narrative might feel like unnecessary drag through the mud. For Kimmel's audience, it might feel like a rare moment of him tipping his hat to someone they'd never expect. Either way, it's a collision of worlds that's just too odd to ignore. And as you'll see next, the internet didn't let this collision slide quietly. It turned it into a full-on debate about what was really said and what was really meant.
Those of you who are hate watching this show right now, wanting to watch me suffer, you will be happy to know that there was no joy in Mudville last night. I was all over the place. 1 minute, I'm watching these long lines in every city, and I think, oh, that's beautiful, democracy in action. Next minute, there's a reporter chatting with some bro at Arizona State who said he voted for Trump because Kamala didn't go on Joe Rogan's podcast, and I'm like, where did I leave my passport? Is this... My kids were very upset. Every once in a while when something bad happens, we let our kids curse for 30 seconds.
Here's the thing, if you go back and listen closely, Kimmel never actually roasted Joe Rogan outright. There's no insult, no punchline at Rogan's expense. And yet, the way the moment played out left plenty of room for interpretation. That's where the internet did what it does best. Fill in the blanks. Clips of the exchange were cut, re-uploaded, and given captions like Kimmel takes shot at Rogan or Rogan called out over Trump, each one spinning the tone in a slightly different direction. And because Rogan is no stranger to controversy or to firing back, people instantly started speculating about whether he'd respond. Some fans imagined him laughing it off on his podcast. Others pictured him going on one of his trademark tangents about Hollywood hypocrisy. In reality, Rogan hasn't said a word about it yet, but the buzz is already there. And sometimes that's all a story needs to take on a life of its own. What makes this so sticky is the dynamic. Two high-profile entertainers with completely different audiences, suddenly connected over politics and the possibility of leaving the country. Even without a clear mock moment, the perception of one is enough to keep the conversation alive, and to keep people hitting replay, looking for hidden jabs they might have missed the first time. And that perception becomes even more interesting when you step back and see what this says about how quickly narratives can spin out of control, which is exactly where this story lands in the bigger picture. In the end, this wasn't really about whether Jimmy Kimmel mocked Joe Rogan or not. It was about how quickly a single mention can snowball into a full-blown narrative. Kimmel talks about moving to Italy, drops Rogan's name in passing, and suddenly it's a headline, a trending clip, and a debate across two completely different fan bases. It shows just how sensitive the cultural moment is, where celebrity comments are dissected frame by frame, and where even a hint of shade can be amplified into a public feud. And maybe that's the real irony here. The very noise Kimmel says he wants to escape in America is exactly what turned his comments into a viral talking point in the first place. Whether you see it as a subtle jab, a weird coincidence, or just another case of the internet doing what it does best, one thing is certain. When Rogan's name and Kimmel's politics end up in the same conversation, people pay attention. And that attention is what keeps stories like this alive long after the original words have faded. If you guys liked today's video, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.